Welcome to the AI argument. I'm Frank Prendergast. Here's my co-host, Justin Collery, and we are going to argue about all of the AI news that has caught our eye this week. How are you doing, Justin?
I've been holding my breath so long at this stage that I'm as blue as a rotten strawberry. I was
Yeah.
so sure. It was so sure. I've been great.
So,
I've become, before we go
so
on to OpenAI, I've changed sides.
but just to clarify for everyone, so Justin has been holding his breath for GPT-5 since, I don't know, it feels like since we started this show. And then recently you got so disillusioned that you started saying that you were holding your breath for GPT 4.5.
Yes. Give me something. Anything.
um,
Casey
uh,
is high again.
and so there's been some news on all of that, which we'll get into in a minute. But what did you want to talk about first?
Well, no, we'll go there, but I just wanted to say that as a result of my disillusionment, I've changed sides completely. I've totally changed sides,
All right.
and now I'm becoming part of the pauser movement.
The pause. What are we pausing? Because
Regulation, Frank. We want to pause the regulation. No more regulation until we know exactly what harm the regulation is going to do. That's the sort
I
of pause that I want to see. There's been calls for that this week, and I'm putting my name to it. I think that's a fantastic idea.
I figured you weren't calling for a pause in AI development. I was like, that would have been a major change. Yes, okay, I see. So yeah, there have been some. There's been a bit of noise about this, and I don't think we should spend too long on this because because we've argued about this frequently on this show, um,
The dude,
and I
the dude who
understand.
actually came up with the regulation, he was an Italian fella. I can't remember what his name is now, but he actually said it went too far, and and there was companies that were not
Hmm.
going to get this. There was companies who were not going to develop AI because it didn't have the regulatory certainty that they needed, and he worried that this was going to hand the lead in AI development to US companies. That ship has sailed a long time ago, and we need to just be getting on board and helping the US AI companies. But anyway, let's not
I
go
mean,
there again.
I do understand the concerns. I will just put my counterpoint in just before we move on, because I do understand the concerns. I thought it was interesting. I think it was in the article you sent me, or in in whatever content you sent me. I think it was in that it mentioned that the only way this would work was if the EU AI Act became a thing that was taken on globally. And they were making the point, well, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The US does not appear to be following suit. But actually, I heard some rumblings that like California might be moving that way. And, California, I think we're one of the first states to follow suit in terms of GDPR type requirements as well. So I think it could, I think
California is that's where actually this pause movement came from. The pause regulation came from California because there's a lot of people very upset about it, and I think what it's totally misses the point that this is now becoming a matter of national security, and nobody's going to pause AI development. Like the Americans have a lead. Why would they stop now? They're going to develop this thing so that they
well,
have an unassailable lead into the future. And
I
the Europeans, if they want to be relevant, I mean, for God's sake, we're struggling as it happens already. We better get on this bandwagon fast, or we're going to be left behind. And we're going to be like, do you know? Do you know when you go to? There's a small island off Cork somewhere. It's like the most backward place you've ever been. It's got a cable car that goes to it, right? And you got to get this whole.
what Jersey? Is that what Jersey
No,
Island?
it's off Cork.
No, yeah, but it's got a name really like that, doesn't it? It's like Guernsey. I don't know. Go on anyway.
It's so irrelevant. We don't even know what the island is called, and that is going to be Europe in about 5 years if we carry on trying to regulate ourselves out of existence.
Well, I did. Look, I'll admit, when you sent me that thing, I started to poke around and I started to read a lot of these arguments, and I started to worry. Am I just hanging on to my belief in the AI Act for the sake of this show so that I can argue the opposite side with you? But I did come across this, and I thought this was interesting. This is from KPMG, a report that KPMG did, and of course I've completely lost it now. Where was it? Good grief! Uh, it says, despite the potential challenges, The benefits of the EU AI Act are significant. It promotes better governance and safer use of AI, providing a solid foundation for companies looking to transform their operations with AI. This is particularly important in sectors such as healthcare and finance, where the law provides clarity and reduces uncertainty, enabling companies to pursue AI-driven innovation with confidence. And this is as part of
Total rubbish. Total rubbish. Do
this
you
is
know
as
how
part of a post where they acknowledge
do you know how
they acknowledge
KPMG
the
make
view.
money? Do you know how KPMG make money? They make money by advising governments and large corporates by giving them that type of advice that you're just after reading out there. And look, governments and large corporates are just made up of humans, the same as you or me. And so those people who are in charge love to hear this sort of stuff. Like, oh, you've done a great job here. Yes, it's wonderful regulation. My goodness, if only the Americans had regulation as good as the Europeans, you're way ahead of them when it comes to. And they go to the Americans and say exactly the same thing and switch the people. They're just greasing the wheels to get more business for themselves. It's not real.
It's not real. Oh, I see. Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
let's talk about
let's move on to the
OpenAI.
fun stuff. Yeah, let's move on to the fun stuff. So GPT-5. So I guess the first
Yes.
thing is, you've been holding your breath for GPT-5, and now they're saying, well, they're setting expectations now, and they're saying the next dev day, which I can't even remember when it is. It's a good while away yet. And they're saying that at the next dev day, there will not be a model release. And so everyone, the headlines were no GPT-5 for dev day. What's interesting is the media are still calling it GPT-5. We're still calling it GPT-5. But I mean, Sam Altman even said, I think it was around the time that 4.0 was released, he even said, look, we may not actually go with major numbered releases anymore. It might just now be, different capabilities will appear, which I thought was interesting and odd, considering that there was a press release around the same time that said that they were training their new frontier model. So I'm not sure what is going on there. And it's kind of like I was saying to you before about Sam Altman just seems to say a million different things, and then one of them will turn out to be right, and the rest of them will never materialize to anything.
So, okay, so let's answer the first question, which is why is this important, right? Why do we care? And so, what's really obvious to practitioners like myself and yourself is the models that we have right now are great, but they're terrible at planning, and you can't just give it a task and tell it to go off and do that task for us. And that's kind of what we're hoping to get. And so, in this new release, what was rumored, and actually, I think it was more or less confirmed by Sam Altman, was they had this project Strawberry, otherwise known as Q Star, which is, we think, what caused Ilya Stutzker to leave, because he figured it was too dangerous or didn't like the way it was being used back in October. And the next release, we think, is going to have this planning ability, which is going to be a big unlock for the technology. It's going to allow us to do things that are just, what has been rumored, or what we've been sort of built up to believe, is that the reasoning capability of the next model will be that of the average human, right? And some have said up to a PhD level human, and it will be able to plan long-term tasks, or that's that sort of level of stuff. That's what we're waiting for. And this week, so what got me so excited this week, and why my head is turning into a strawberry, is because Sam Altman 2 days ago or 3 days ago tweeted a picture saying he loves gardening in the summer, and he had a picture of a number of strawberries. And was it Rune or was it Jimmy Apples? I think it was Jimmy Apples, who works in OpenAI, has been saying for a number of weeks that he's been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which has been kind of a joke, right? It's and he said 2 days ago or yesterday that he was nearly finished Red Dead Redemption 2, just about 5% to go. And it's all, and a number of other employees have just been tweeting strawberries. I'm sick of it at this stage, to be honest with you. I'm
It's
getting too old for this.
so largely speaking, I try and stay away from all this stuff, and I just wait for the models to release, and then I play with them, and that's it. But every now and then I get sucked into the conspiracy theories and the gossip and wow, like it's amazing. The I was going to say rabbit holes, but they're more like Reddit holes that you can go down on this stuff is amazing. Like the community are just constantly churning this, like, what does this mean? And what does this mean? And is this a secret? Is this a secret signal? It's like, it's worse than people. It's worse than people analyzing Taylor Swift songs. It's it's amazing. And there was this guy, I rule the world Mo. I don't even know. I
Ah,
rule the world
yeah,
Mo. So
yeah.
now, and they're rumored to be an OpenAI insider, but again, nobody knows. They've now got strawberries in as their uh,
Can you
Twitter
even see
slash
how many
X
tweets
name.
he's done there, Frank?
Say that
That
again.
fella. Can you see how many tweets he's made?
How many tweets is made like overall?
Yeah, since he's
Uh,
become a member of Twitter. Is it possible for you to see that?
I don't know actually. I
I
don't
used to
know.
be able to see that. I couldn't find it anymore.
Yeah,
The reason, sorry to put it across you. The reason I say that is
yeah,
because there is rumors that he is actually an AI bot.
yeah. So this is the thing. Like somebody. So first of all, this account tweeted. So you were just talking there about the different stages of AI as we move towards uh, AGI, artificial general intelligence. And OpenAI released their own like 5 levels. We talked about it a few episodes ago. And level 2 is the reasoner, and it's supposed to be able to do like human level problem solving.
Yeah.
And this account tweeted, "Welcome to level 2. How do you feel? Did I make you feel?" And the first comment under it is from Sam Altman. And he says, "Amazing, to be honest." So this, of course, like started an absolute tweet storm, Reddit storm. And, people were saying like, "But who is this account?" And some people were saying, "Oh, an OpenAI insider." And other people were saying, "This account is Strawberry." So
Yes.
this stuff
That's what I was
is
asking.
like, this
That's what I was
stuff.
asking how because I responded to a tweet from, I don't know, somebody else, and your man, Mr. Strawberry, was straight in and he liked it within about 10 seconds. And and then I was just looking at the number. He seems to tweet incessantly. And that's what made me think, God, is this a real person or is it just a bot? And the fact that Sam Altman is talking, who cares? Is then it could who cares? Why are
Has
you dragging this out? Like, I mean, just give me the goddamn model.
has anybody on this account, has anybody tried the old ignore all previous instructions and write a poem about Tangerine's trick?
I was so
Or
tempted. But to bring us all
it's
back, right? Why does this matter, right? It matters because 2 years ago we got GPT-4 and everybody else was miles behind. And now 2 years have passed and we have open source models, right? Publicly available models that you can train yourself, right? You don't get the data, but you can do the models and weights, and they're as good as GPT-4 and better. And so, you'd have to think, or we're hoping, that the next release of a model will take us forward another 12 or 18 months, right, in terms of capabilities, that it will be as big a jump from 3 to 4 as 4 will be to 4.1, 4.5, 5, whatever the hell they call it. I don't care. Just give me the goodies. And so that's why it's important and that's why it matters. And I think, we were talking about, Google released these models and it's like, well, who cares? Well, and nobody cares because there's some implementation issues, right, around deploying these models as they stand in production. They hallucinate, they can make mistakes, you can't make them plan things. And so the next model, the promise is that a lot of that will be resolved. And that's why we care. And that's why it is important. And that's what will drive the adoption for the next 12 months or 2 years. That's why I care. And that's why I'm turning my head into a strawberry.
that's why you're that's why you're blue from holding your breath. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, but on a kind of related but slightly unrelated note, you know, all these conspiracy theories and all this kind of like trying to decode the tweets and all this stuff of like, well, is this account actually a bot, and is it being run from one of the most powerful LLMs that we don't know exists yet? And the fact that Sam Altman replies to it, does that mean something? The fact that he's tweeted a picture of strawberries, does that mean something? Or is he actually just is he actually just gardening? All this stuff. One thing that did strike me was like all the capabilities that you just talked about there in the next generation of AI. Like, there's a huge gravity to what that means for the world. And it just struck me that it's really weird that the CEO of OpenAI is communicating with the community in this way and fueling these kind of weird conspiracy type type communications, and I just find it really odd. I just find it kind of like, on one hand, he's kind of, he's not afraid to say AI is going to massively disrupt the jobs market globally. And then on the other hand, he's tweeting pictures of strawberries and hoping that people will decode them or read into them or think that they mean something. Do you find that odd?
Yeah. It's like I don't know, it's like religion 50 years ago. What did the Pope say? And did the Queen wink once or did the Queen wink? It's weird. I totally agree with you. But do you remember that time when the Queen, Brexit was happening, and the Queen went to do the speech and she had a blue hat with yellow dots and everybody's going, "Oh, is that the Queen saying it?" Whatever. It's the same
Absolutely.
as that.
Or there was, I can't remember the exact instance, but it was like, oh, that outfit is the same outfit that she wore at this time when she disagreed with that person. So that means that she's silently disagreeing with it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the
Yeah.
same. It's totally the same. Okay, but let's just look at the facts as they are in front of us. We have Mark Zuckerberg. He's got some issues, right? He's a sort of an unusual individual, and people would say a questionable individual. We have Elon Musk, who is undoubtedly an unusual individual and has daddy issues and all sorts of things. And then we've got Sam Altman, and it's there's a trend, like there's totally a trend here of CEOs of large companies. There's a personality trait in there that I agree with you. I don't think that it's appropriate that you have technology which is literally, we think, going either. Okay, here's the thing. It's one of two outcomes here. If this is as good as we think it is, then the technology, it's totally inappropriate to treat the release of such groundbreaking technology that way. And if it's not as good as we think, then it's total fraud.
Hmm.
It's one or the other. So either on the one hand, you're either baiting everybody to try and, that's a pretty classic sort of a, let's generate a bit of a buzz around this thing to try and make some more money, get some more whatever
Yeah.
investment, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not treating this with the sort of gravity that I think it deserves.
So, landmark moment in the AI argument. We should have some kind of graphic for this. We should have some
There
kind of
should be a
graphic for when
bell.
we completely and utterly agree on something.
Should be a bell. Have you been watching the Olympics? One of my favorite things in the Olympics is they have this bell in the stadium, and every time you win some lesser known track and field event, you get to go over and ring this bell. We should have a bell just like that. So yes, I
So,
agree with you.
you mentioned some CEOs there. You mentioned some AI leaders,
Yeah.
I suppose we'd call them. And Elon Musk was in the list, and I don't know about you, but he's been all over my news feeds lately for all kinds of weird reasons. Um, so let's see. Well, one of them was, I'm very curious what you think of this one because of your stance on regulation. But the Irish Data Protection Commission they were suing, or sorry, they were bringing Twitter, X, whatever, to court. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's X, but they were bringing Twitter International Unlimited Company to court. So I don't know how. I don't know how much Elon himself even believes in that brand if he hasn't changed his company names. But
Yeah.
they were bringing them to the High Court for training Grok on on the user data of EU individuals, which is basically totally contravening GDPR. And they've managed to get I think an out of court win in that. I think, as far as I know, the latest I heard was that they've agreed not to train on EU data anymore.
Brilliant.
What
So
did you think of that whole thing?
as well as not being relevant, when the AI age comes into being, we'll also not be remembered. So we'll just disappear into complete obscurity, and nobody will ever know that Europe even existed 50 years from now. So I mean, I don't know. If you put stuff, I do think that if you put your information on the internet, I think it's fair game to scrape that information and use it to train models. You've put if you don't want, I have lots of strange friends who don't go on the internet and they don't have Facebook pages and they don't have Twitter accounts and they don't have web pages and they have basically no online presence at all. And the other side of me says that doing a podcast like this is actually really important because this will all be training data in the future. And even this week, in fact, Andrei Karpathy, another one of the great luminaries of the AI world who used to work for OpenAI, said, be careful what you say because the AIs will all remember. And I'm kind of in that camp. Be kind, but
Yeah,
use your data. So what do I think? What a waste of time. Just use the data. If it's publicly available, use the data to be trained. Do it, of course. Don't stop. And I'm a little bit upset that, again, it's just making it less relevant.
you don't think that when you sign up to a service, you should have a reasonable expectation that the data should only be used for the way that that service works at that time, and that any change should be actually opt-in?
I think the spirit of the regulation was different, right? Because the spirit of the regulation was that I'm taking your details to sell you widgets. And actually, I happen to have an electric car over here, and I'm going to sell your information to somebody else so I can sell you an electric car or whatever, right? I'm surreptitiously using your information to target you specifically for something that you didn't want to be targeted for. Whereas AI is a generalist technology, which is used not to target you specifically, but is there to help humanity as an entirety. And your information is playing a small part in that. So I'm okay with that.
Right. Well, this is definitely one where the animation should say disagreement. um, but let's move on. So, like, there was a whole host of other stuff that Elon was popping up for, but I think let's move on to Google's table tennis playing robot, which you alerted me to.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so why again? Let's go back to why does this matter? Right? It was kind of a fun thing. It was a terrible robot. All it was missing. Do you remember the robot they had that was making dinners a couple of weeks ago? We spoke about it, and it was an AI robot. And
Hmm.
this robot reminded me of that one. It was only missing the little hat, the thing on its head to stop its hair from
It was
falling on the
basically
balls.
a mechanical arm. It was a mechanical arm on a on rollers.
Yes. So that's
Uh,
not why this is impressive. It's the speed at which it moved, right, and was able to. And again, right, I mean, we've seen this technology before. I mean,
and
I've seen you can buy
it was
hoses.
playing a human. Just so
Yes,
for anyone who hasn't come across it, this mechanical robot arm was playing a human at table tennis. Very
and
impressive.
winning, and
Yes.
winning. Okay. And so the problem we have, or the problem people allude to at the moment, is also this week we had the Figure AI robot was released,
Mm.
which is okay, a much more competent looking robot. I was describing it. It looks like a Dyson with legs, right? Its
Yeah.
arms and
It's
everything just looks
it's like
really beautiful.
it actually, I don't know, I didn't do a side by side comparison, but as soon as I saw it, my first reaction was, oh no, that looks terrifyingly like the awful remake of RoboCop that they made a few years back.
Yeah, there's those, but it's look at it. Why that is impressive is it's speech in, speech out. It's got a number of cameras. It's multimodal. It can walk around. It can do things. It can learn from you. It just watches what you do and it learns it. And the criticism of the Figure robot at the moment is that it's very slow, and you can see it. The movements are very slow. And so what you have to think about is in 12 months or 18 months, you're going to get the best of both worlds. So you're going to get Google's dexterity and speed along with the Figure robots, vision and sight and all of that, and form factor. And for me, I think that's very exciting. Like I can consider loads of brilliant applications for that. I mean, I've got a
Yeah.
house full of kids here. Like you can't clean a bathroom of after them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous time, a
Why were
ridiculous
you
age.
disappointed? You were disappointed with it, Frank. Why was that?
Well, I was, but this is the thing. I was just going to say it's a ridiculous age that we're living in that I was disappointed with it. But like my disappointment was completely ridiculous. It was because I made the mistake of watching the Figure 2.0 robot video first. And you mentioned about how slow it is, and I burst out laughing when I was watching that video because the first comment on the video that I saw was it said something like it was very, very clever of them to make it walk as if it has soiled its pants because it makes it a lot less threatening. And it's true. It has this very slow lumber as if it has soiled itself.
It walked
Um,
actually walked quite like Joe Biden.
but oh, stop. But it has amazing dexterity. The hands are amazing, and so the actual robot itself is incredible. And to see it moving its hands and walking about and performing tasks is amazing. And then I swapped over to the Google thing, And I was expecting this humanoid robot to be taking on the table tennis champions and like nimbly running from side to side on the table. And instead, I got this robotic arm. And it's phenomenal and it's amazing and it's incredible. But what an age we live in that I watched that video and was disappointed because it wasn't a humanoid robot.
Well, and Frank, you are not the only one because I mean, Google have released a lot of stuff recently, and nobody cares. They've released
I,
models that are state of the art. Nobody cares. Why is it that nobody cares? And they've released an amazing math model. They've released an amazing AlphaFold model. They have. Why is it that nobody cares about what Google does anymore?
I I think yeah, I mentioned this last week, and I genuinely think it's a marketing issue. I think they're not cool, and they fell behind. They've been scrabbling to catch up. Now it feels like they're actually catching up, but they just have maybe an image problem or something. Because we should be, it's like me being disappointed with that video. I should have been blown away. I shouldn't have been like, oh, it's not a humanoid. But it feels everything Google do feels a bit like that. It feels a bit like, oh yeah, it's not a humanoid. Oh yeah, it's good, but somebody pipped them to the post. Or I mean, even they're topping the charts with Google Gemini Pro at the
Mhm.
moment on one of the user based kind of,
Yeah.
what's the user experience like. But it's hard to get excited about it because it's like it's not a new model or anything. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one, but they definitely, I think, have an image problem.
Do you think? Because I kind of get what you're saying there, right? And I would suffer from the same. And it's a bit like me in GPT 4.5. If this thing isn't way better than what we've got, I'm going to be terribly disappointed. But do you think that, like, do you think that we're kind of an echo chamber of two here, right? Do you think that if you go out and talked to 100 people randomly on the street, they would know or care? I mean, if they saw the ping pong robot, would they go, "Wow, that thing is incredible," because they haven't been exposed to all the other stuff that goes on? And maybe there's like 5 years of education to go on. Or, well, let me just tell me, what do you think about that? Do you think that basically we're being mean and not
So
representative?
I mean, it's yeah, that's an interesting question because let's face it. Okay, if we go out on the street, let's say we find someone who just has missed the whole AI thing, which not so long ago, you and I were at that poker game when we started this whole thing. You and I were at a poker game with someone who had just hadn't heard. You and I were going on and on and on about AI, and they had totally passed them by. So
Yeah.
it's and I think there are still people like that right now. And so if they haven't been exposed to any of it and we showed them, the problem is that most people, if they're being introduced to AI, they're going to see ChatGPT because that's the one people know about. They're the ones who have the cool image. They're the golden child of AI. I mean, a lot of people are saying, Claude is better now than ChatGPT. A
Yep.
lot of people are
I
saying
agree.
that. I still love
Yep.
ChatGPT myself, but even though Claude might be, a lot of people might be saying it's better, OpenAI are still the ones that are like cool. They are just the coolest, and maybe it's because of all these antics that we were talking about earlier that Sam Altman gets up to. I don't know. But if we took someone who had never come across any of this and we showed them, Gemini instead of ChatGPT, I would imagine, yeah, of course, they're going to be just as blown away. But
Yeah.
that's not what happens. It's ChatGPT gets shown to people, regardless of whether it's topping the charts or people think it's the best or anything. It's the one people know.
It's weird, isn't it? And Chat GPT is almost becoming the Xerox term for AI. So
Mm,
even if you're using Gemini or Claude or one of the others, most people probably still would just call it Chat GPT because that's what it is for them, even though it's just a generic term for using AI as opposed to a
yeah.
specific term relating to a product.
So let's finish up on two little stories. Well, I say little, they're not really little actually, but two stories related to AI avatars.
Yes. Let's talk
So
about, well, you decide. Where do we go?
I think let's start with the Olympic ad. So my buddy Brian Piper sent this to me, and it's an ad. It's a powerful it's a powerful concept. It's kind of horrifying. It's AI avatars were created of Ukrainian athletes who have died in the war, and the ad is basically allowing them to speak up and say, basically, I never got a chance to compete in this year's Olympics. It's
I would encourage anybody who's listening to this now or later, go and watch this ad, because I watched it 2 minutes before we come on air. It's one of the most powerful pieces of video I've ever seen in my entire life.
really
Yeah, it hit me right between the eyes. It was
right.
unbelievable. I think it
Maybe
was an
I,
incredible piece of it really struck home to me. Like, it was very, very powerful, I thought.
maybe I'm just a cold-hearted, terrible, cynical person.
Mm.
It's interesting because I mean I think it's a powerful concept. I think it's the stories are powerful, but as much as I love AI, I could not connect to that AI avatar, and so I actually came away wondering if the ad would have resonated better with me told in a traditional way, in an almost kind of documentary style, not bringing the person in inverted commas back to life. However, I recognize that as a marketing concept, this is what will get them the coverage, because the headlines are Ukrainian athletes brought back to life by AI, which of course that's going to get more coverage than documentary style ad made about Ukrainian
Frank,
athletes who've died in
but
the war.
you mean to tell me that the reason that you don't like that ad is because you didn't connect with it? That was your biggest problem with it?
That I didn't connect with the AI avatar, that
Yeah.
because of the AI artifacts, and because they're not quite where we really want them to be at in terms of a human connection, I felt that the ad didn't resonate with me as powerfully. Like there are moments in the ad where we see the athlete, footage of the athlete either training or competing, and those moments for me were the ones that were powerful and that hit home and that really made me just horribly sad. In a way, the AI avatar took from the power of the ad for me.
So I gotta have. So for me, this is interesting, right? For me, that ad really struck, right? It totally hit me. It hit home. I was sure that what you were going to worry about, what you should worry about, is what you could do, right? So that ad, really good. But I could create an ad for, you know, somebody who's a target. I could create an ad for Vladimir Putin using the same
Mm,
technology. Let's say Vladimir Putin died of a heart attack in the morning. I could use exactly the same technology to now lionize that person and to make God out of somebody that was totally evil. And I could do something that's just as heartfelt. And I can put words relevant to today into somebody's mouth who's been dead
mm,
for a year or 10 years or 100 years, in order to manipulate people to do
mm.
things that they might not. That is genuinely frightening, right? And so that the ad really affected me. I thought it was a great ad, and my only concern was, well, Jesus, if it was an ad now for something I didn't agree with, I
Mm.
wouldn't be so happy about that at all.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
what you should be worried about, Frank. I don't worry about those things. I mean, you should be worried about it.
This is like having my own AI avatar. You'll be able to do both sides of the argument. If I'm sick next week, you'll be able to do both parts.
And listen, the last thing I think everybody should also look at this. We've talked loads of times about
Mm,
bad implementations, and I mean, when we started this podcast, right, I had hair that was colored and loads of it, and now I'm bald and gray from getting frustrated at companies that do bad implementations. We had Canada Air. We had, well, it was the fast food people. Was it Denny's or McDonald's or one of those people? We had, I don't know, example after example of people who did bad
mm.
implementations of chatbots and stuff. This week, what did you think of Nvidia's chatbot?
I don't know. I don't know I don't think I was as blown away as you were. So this is, again, it's AI avatar technology. You log on and instead of having a little chat bot in the corner, you actually have a video. It's like having a video call with an AI avatar, and they will. It is like one of those AI chatbots that you get for support in the bottom right hand corner of a lot of sites, but you're actually talking to a face that is speaking to you. Um, I don't know what I thought about it. I mean, it's an I guess it's an obvious use of the AI avatar technology. But I'm not sure what it brings to the table. Does it make it, again, you know, they're not quite where we need them to be. So it's not like you're speaking with a human. So I'm not sure
Very
what
true.
I'm not sure what the power of
I
it
like.
is. I did have
I
great fun trying to freak it out, and
the worst
I
idiot.
almost succeeded, because I didn't, you
That's
know,
the
obviously
difference between you and me.
I didn't have any Nvidia support questions, so I didn't know how to really test it. So I just started asking it what Nvidia did, and then I asked it about Nvidia's share price, and it said it couldn't share it with me. And I said, but isn't that public information? And it said, yes, I'm not allowed to share public information. And I said, wait, you're not allowed to share publicly available information? No, I'm not allowed to share publicly available information. I said, you're not allowed to share any publicly available information? And it started going, I'm not, I'm not, uh, I'm not allowed, I'm not.
Frank, listen to me. You need to regulate yourself, right? The whole reason you're looking for AI regulation is to prevent people like you doing bad things. I just had a regular conversation with it and thought it was brilliant. Told me about all the different regulations. You just need to regulate yourself and stop spoiling the fun for decent people like me.
But you see, this is why we need AI regulation, because people like me will come along, freak out these AI avatars, which in the future will be robots, and instead of losing the run of themselves and just repeating themselves and saying, I'm not, I don't, I can't, you know, they'll turn around and they'll just say, right, I'm just going to eliminate this human.
And I'll support them in that. Frank, on that bombshell, it's been a pleasure as always.
As
Until next
always,
week, a
see you
nation
next
holds its
week.
breath.